Hi everyone, this is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. Today we're going to have Astral Scams, the sequel, part 2. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to talk about and read a message that I got on Reddit from a Astral Club member who is a physicist, who listened to the undersea UFO episode and has some very interesting things to say about the tall whites that were described in that video. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, let's get into more astral scams. Astral scams, of course, are people trying to shortcut the astral projection process. They don't want to study, read, meditate, and practice a variety of methods so they can finally learn how to astral project. They want to take a shortcut, and unfortunately, there's always plenty of shysters out there who are willing to sell them these shortcuts. And fortunately for us, some of these are pretty funny. And so let's get into it. And remember, every one of these things has been bought by a number of people before, because those are the only ones that I have here. So somebody out there is trying to astral project with this garbage. So let's learn here for a second. Okay, the first up is Astral Projection Oil. It's $11.50, and for that sum, you get 1/2 ounce of astral projection oil. This oil works regardless of your race, gender, or nationality, which is always very good idea. It's very equal. This oil will assist you in beginning your astral journey, and it will help you to get into a relaxed state to where you are able to begin the astral projection process. This person says that all of their oils are made with only pure essential oils and herbs, and they also bless and charge them with spiritual energy to perform their individual purposes. These oils are made to order. Well, that's a lot for $11.50. So, well, what it sounds like to me is she's got a whole bunch of bottles of oil, and then based on what she's selling, she decides which blessing and which energy charge to throw at it. And throw is probably what you should do with this crap. Okay, the next one gets really fancy. It's the Dittany of Crete, and it's used for astral projection and divination. It is $10.99. Apparently, this is an herb that is used by modern witches in love potions and for divination and contact with spirits. Okay, that's fine. However, it can also be used in the spirit of multi-purposing for astral projection as well. And this person says all kinds of other blends and what have you to achieve astral projection using this herb. So I don't know what else to say about that. The next up is sandalwood incense, 40 stick, new sealed, for astral projection. Now this is only $3.75. You can get it at the Soaring Eagle New Age shop. And this stuff is hand rolled in India. And this sandalwood is used to promote spiritual awareness and astral projection. It also can be burned to exorcise demons and evil ghosts. And it can also conjure beneficial spirits. And it is used by witches for protection, astral projection, healing rituals, and wish magic. I used to use sandalwood. I like the smell of sandalwood as a cologne, but my wife just about threw me out. She hates the smell of sandalwood. So, but they also add that there's no animal testing, And you should keep this stuff away from children and pets, and probably from humans. It says, when you burn this stuff, don't burn it on a fireproof surface, and don't leave it unattended, which is probably a good idea. Okay, next up is I guess we're in the witchy theme here now. The Wiccan 2-ounce ritual astral projection flying ointment, handcrafted, infused. It's $14.99 plus $2.99 economy shipping. Wiccan ritual for astral projection. It's a nice 2-ounce size. That's what it says. Nice 2-ounce. It comes in a screw top metal container to keep the ointment fresh much longer, and the power's locked in. See, that's the problem, because if you don't have the right kind of metal cap, the powers they leak out, and that's that's not what you want. There are 13 plus ingredients. 13 plus. Don't they know how many ingredients? I guess they're just throwing stuff in there. You're like, well, are you going to put a label saying what's on it? I don't know. It's 13 plus ingredients. It's a flying ointment. What do you want? The FDA doesn't enforce flying ointments, apparently. It says, please do not ingest or use for prolonged skin contact. It's an ointment. And it says don't, and by the way, it says don't ingest. ENJEST. So they don't want you to eat it, which is a good idea, I suppose. And you don't want it on your skin for too long. I mean, it's an ointment. Okay. There are gemstones in this ointment. Wow. Okay. For added strength of power. So you got, probably some plastic rubies bouncing around in there. You can keep them, or you can use them for future spell casting or astral projection. You could also use them to make candles, amulets, talismans, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, the real point here is that all of their items are handcrafted in the USA only. Okay, we're not getting this stuff done by Wiccans in China. Anyway, it's handcrafted by a practicing Mississippi Delta coven, and that coven is spelled COVAN, with decades of crafting experience. Maybe they should have spent some of those decades learning English. All items are charged and altar blessed by the coven, COVAN again, themselves. No, it's THEMSELFS, themselves. So it's not someone else. They're blessing it themselves. And none of this is made or shipped from another country. And they only use 100% olive or almond oils. And then it ends with, so mote it be. I think they meant, so mote it be. I guess they spent too much time in Hogwarts School of Magic, and perhaps they just didn't have an English class there, the potions class. Okay, well, there you go. Next up is my personal favorite. It is a vampire ring for astral projection and for protection / eternal life, made from sterling silver 925. Now, I'm going to stop everybody right now. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, come on, Rick, vampire rings? We've all priced vampire rings. They go for tens of thousands of dollars. Sure, they're powerful, but who can afford that? I mean, all we are is just plain old garden variety humans with regular bank accounts. We're not undead with 7 or 8 or 9 figure bank accounts. How are we going to afford a vampire ring? Well, hold on a minute. If you're not already sitting down, you'd better sit down, because of this whole plague that we've had going on this year, there's an overstock of vampire rings. And so now they're not $10,000, they're not $5,000, they're not even $1,000. And they're certainly not $9, $8, $7, $6, $5, $4, $3, $2, $100 either. For this limited time, they are $77.77. That's right, you heard it. $77.77, or 5 easy payments of $15.56. Now, this person's husband and she have been collecting paranormal and magical items for a long, long while. And where magic dwells, magic will gather. And they have an ever-growing collection of a variety of magical objects. And due to this, weird year of 2020, they've got an overstock of vampire rings, and they're willing to, they got to unload these things because they got to keep the stock moving. These vampire rings, you can't just let them sit around forever. They need a human to enslave or whatever. There's a whole legend behind this. For thousands of years, there have been reports from all around the globe of vampiric beings. They're found in many cultures. They're in the Eastern Europe. It's called a vukudlak. It's a mix of a werewolf and a vampire, and there's werewolves everywhere, and all kinds of other names. And then they talk about in Suriname, it's the Asman. And there's more information about how they can turn into bats and how they can hide in shadows and all the other names they've got and how they can fly around. And in Japan, they've got pale skin and all kinds of other cool stuff. Anyway, more to the point is that this ring is going to not only help you astral project, but it's going to keep you invisible. It's going to help you fly. It's going to give you, all kinds of energy and aura perception and power sensing and telepathy and endurance and speed and immortality, or at least a greatly extended life. And all of that, yours for $77.77. And if you act now, they will throw in that astral oil that we talked about at the beginning. Absolutely free. But you got to call in the next hour. Okay, well, that was my favorite. Lastly here, we've got an astral energy healer, which I found online. This person will heal you by manipulating your astral energy over the phone. And we're not even talking a landline, because that, who's got a landline anymore? No, she can do it with the old garden variety mobile phone. So she's got a new client energy medicine session, which lasts 90 minutes or 1 hour and 30 minutes. I guess she felt the need to make sure you understood how long 90 minutes is, at $144. How you like that? 90 minutes of astral healing through, your iPhone or your other type of phone. I mean, that's a heck of a deal, right? Now, if you're a returning client, it's $111 for 1 hour. I guess, you get a break a little bit when you're someone new. A check-in session for returning clients only. You get 30 minutes for $55. She doesn't really explain what a check-in session is, but my guess is she kind of just, checks in with your astral aura and just to see if everything's cool for $55. So I guess that's a deal. Then they've got a group healing event. So if you're into group stuff, maybe there's a Groupon. I don't know. It says 1 hour for $50. So I guess you get a bunch of your friends and whatever, and maybe y'all get together. Maybe y'all, get in on a conference call, and bing, bang, boom, you get group healed. And she also offers gift certificates for those people who've got a loved one who is very difficult to buy for. So, there you go. These are my favorite astral scams for this episode. I promised you to talk about this physicist. He contacted me. He's an Astral Club member, and he listened to the episode a little while back where I talked about an experience that I had, and this was based on a request from one of our members, where I actually went looking for an undersea craft. And if you recall, I ended up diving deep into the Gulf of Mexico and went deep underwater, where I discovered a craft. And it was covered by this weird energy field that made it very difficult for me to penetrate. But eventually I did. And instead of finding my old gray pals, my old gray alien friends from the late 80s, which is the last time I was really thinking about aliens and whatever. That's back when Whitley Strieber's book Communion came out, and I'd had some experiences with the gray aliens. This is really the first time I encountered any other alien species, and I had never heard of these tall whites before, and I was quite surprised to see them. So, if you haven't seen the episode yet or whatever, just review it. It was just a few weeks ago. Anyway, I was contacted by this physicist, and his Reddit title is De Santa Monica. Anyway, he says that he said, "Thank you for your excellent Astral Club reports. I have had OBEs, been involved with the Monroe Institute, and am proud to be listed as a co-author with physicist Tom Campbell on a quantum physics paper proposing experiments to test his virtual reality theories." I have heard of Tom Campbell. He's a noted physicist and author. He came up with the My Big Toe, TOE in capital letters, trilogy. It seeks to unify science and philosophy. It's been a long time since I've been exposed to it, so I'm a little sketchy now on the details. But he is a noted physicist. So being a co-author in one of his quantum physics papers is quite the honor. So this individual obviously, knows what he's talking about. I mean, last time I took physics was in college, and I was forced to take it because it was a requirement. So, I'm sure they know an awful lot more about that than I do. Anyway, as a result, he'd like to know, actually, after listening to the video, he says that he also knows an individual named Charles Hall, who I was not aware of, and I looked him up. Apparently, he's the author of the Millennial Hospitality Series. Apparently, and he is a speaker and what have you, and he's, so I guess, quite well known in the alien UFO type community, a community that I have not been a part of for many decades, so I've been kind of out of that loop. Anyway, he claims to have lived with what he calls the tall white aliens for a couple of years. And I guess he wrote the series based on that. And this individual, this physicist, was asking me if I'd heard of this Charles Hall or if I was aware of his work and his information about these tall whites. Of course, I said it was very nice to meet a subscriber, but I'd never heard of Charles Hall or his information on the tall whites since, as you guys know, I haven't been involved in any of this alien stuff since the late 80s with the Greys. So this physicist says that Charles Hall reported that he had experiences in the 60s with these tall whites. He says he spent 2 years interacting with the tall whites at Ellis Air Force Base in Nevada, which is a place that's had weird stories coming out of it for a long time. There, the tall whites apparently have a base in the mountains for refurbishing and repairing their craft as they pass through this relatively desolate part of the galaxy while engaging in interstellar commerce. Hall says that the tall whites have agreements for technology exchange and agreements with the Air Force to ride on tall white spacecraft, which would make sense. Remember, I saw, in my experience, an Air Force officer. It was a colonel, a full bird colonel, who was in an Air Force jumpsuit and had that weird patch that had a sword on it. He also says that my report of their white skin and their platinum blonde or white hair was correct. And he says that apparently these tall whites live up around 700 years. At around the 400-year mark, they begin a growth spurt that eventually takes them to about 8.5 to 9 feet tall after being around 5'11" for the first half of their life. So if you recall, some of the ones that I saw were extremely tall. The others were more like around 6 feet. And I interpret it as a male-female sex difference. Although, to be honest with you, thinking back, I'm not sure that was necessarily valid. I mean, I guess I made some assumptions that perhaps were from my own human prejudices or knowledge, because the beings all look pretty much alike. At any rate, after this growth spurt, apparently their own internal organs have a hard time because they don't grow proportionally. So evidently they die around 700 because there's organ failure, which, I'm not going to cry. 700 years would be nice. At any rate, these tall whites are 3 or 4 times smarter than humans. They have a nervous system that processes impulses much more efficiently. And that fits with the idea that they'd be smart enough to build a craft that could handle the ocean depths that I reported. And once again, keep in mind, I have had people, I had one person who commented that an interstellar craft wouldn't necessarily be a craft that could handle the ocean depths. And that's true. But remember, I reported that weird energy field that made it very difficult for me to penetrate. And I'm thinking that perhaps that's some sort of a field that can be used, to support the craft from a structural standpoint, even under those kinds of pressures. He says that much like my report, they have very large eyes. Now, he says these eyes were reported as blue, whereas I saw black. But my idea with that is contact lenses. I mean, how hard is it just to take white hair or platinum hair and make it yellow? And how hard is it to take one eye color and make it another eye color? We humans do it all the time. Hair dye and contact lenses. So I have to believe that aliens of this sophistication, if they didn't want to lower themselves to use our human methods, could certainly do something a little bit more high-tech to make themselves look a little bit more like humans when they're around humans. So, I don't know, that's my kind of theory about that particular difference. But the rest of it, the rest of my description apparently matches this guy's description extremely closely. Let's see here. I was mostly interested in the following aspects of the Hall report. He said the tall whites have superior intelligence and physical fragility, and they regard people like us as dumb gorillas who are strong and dangerous. I can't say as I totally disagree with him there. And most surprisingly, they are incredibly selfish vegans. A selfish vegan. I've seen self-righteous vegans, not necessarily selfish ones. At any rate, he says that what they did is on their planet, they killed off all the other animals who they saw as potential rivals. And apparently they claim that most inhabited planets with intelligent species also kill off all other species that they see as competitors in the environment. If that's true, then that would make humans extremely environmentally conscious. Perhaps one of the most environmentally conscious beings in the galaxy. And isn't that a sad commentary? Uh, so if Hall is telling the truth, he says it means that the tall whites can be added to the list of other aliens such as greys and reptilians. So anyway, he just thanks me for Astral Club and for that particular video. So I consider that extremely interesting, and I thanked him and told him that I was very grateful for that information, because I always am whenever somebody has other information or comments. Photios is very good, for instance, at doing some scientific research and supplying comments that help to back up or support some of the experiences that I had in the future. And I'm always very grateful for that, as indeed I was grateful for this as well. Okay, everyone, I want to thank you guys for hanging in there. And as always, if you liked this episode, please hit the like button, share it with those with like minds, subscribe, and leave a comment. And I have done several playlists now for the channel. There's a playlist that has all of the videos, so you can just hit play and hear me drone on video after video. And there's also another playlist that just has the Q&A sessions. So if you've got time in your hands and you're into a little bit of self-torture, you can always sit there and just listen to me yak on and on about astral projection. Okay, everyone, thanks a lot. This is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.